Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, it's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for another podcast. On today's podcast, we're going to discuss a little bit of the 80s. And I had an idea of what it would cost to build a car in the 80s, and I kind of went through and broke that down. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We got Tori Alonso on the podcast today, as well as some other stuff that we're going to get into. So talk about One Crazy Weekend coming up and some of the cars that are going to be debuting. There's lots of stuff happening this year, so I want you guys to make sure you are getting ready for One Crazy Weekend happening in October. It'll be here before you know it, so make sure you go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the link that says Showtime, and go book your rooms today. Don't miss out. The room block will sell out this year, so make sure you guys block your rooms. We've got room for over 500 cars this year, and our plan is to fill the top of the parking garage. So it's 4 times the space of our car show last year, and it's going to be even more fun, exciting stuff. Kicking off on Thursday with a poker tournament that's going to be taking place inside the hotel for VW people with Volkswagen prizes to win. So it'll be a great time for all you guys. More details will be unfolding, and we're going to get into a lot of the details on One Crazy Weekend coming up. But before we get into that, don't forget to support our sponsors, VW Trends Magazine, a magazine for the people, by the people. Go subscribe today at VWTrendsMagazine.com. Matter of fact, next month, I think the issue comes out with One Crazy Weekend coverage. And I got a message, a little birdie told me, Eric Arnold told me that next month, One Crazy Weekend coverage will be in Hot VWs in the May issue. So looking forward to that, guys. And I'm excited for you guys to see the coverage. Hopefully they'll pick Eric's best pictures and put them out there and show you guys what the weekend was all about. It's a great time. If you haven't gone, don't miss it this year. There are people literally coming from all over the world. There's going to be a car that is being restored currently in Scotland that'll be here debuting. There's a car that's out of state right now. It's owned by someone in the UK that they're redoing right now for our big 80s extravaganza, which we're going to get into the details on that here shortly in the podcast. But for now, let's get ready to get into this. On today, we're going to discuss what was it like back in the 80s, what made an 80s car an 80s car, and what did it cost then versus today. So let's get into it this week on Let's Talk Dubs, 80s Talk with Bill and Tori Alonso on Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like. So if you happen to see a good-looking Volkswagen...
Tori, what's up, buddy?
What's going on? How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to the show. We're going to be talking some 80s stuff today, but before we get into that real quick, I just wanted to mention a few things that we're going to be doing. As everybody knows, the show season's kicking off, and one of the first shows I'm going to is going to be, as a matter of fact, this weekend I'm going to be in San Diego shooting some video stuff that's to be announced coming up. That'll be on a fairly big YouTube channel with Zorba. So as soon as that's getting ready to get dropped, I'll let everybody here know so you guys can check out that video. But the first event that I'm going to be hitting in Southern California is going to be on the 30th, which is going to be the DKK Cruise Night. And that's going to be happening. I guess they're calling it the VW Revival Weekend, but I'm going to be going to the DKK meet Friday night. And on Saturday, I'll go to the RVA show. After that, I'll go to the ISP West event. And I don't know if I'll be there till Sunday for the Revival. If I'm there, I may go there, but I discussed it a couple episodes back about how spread out that is. But that's one of the things I'm going to be doing first weekend in June. Third weekend in June, we're going to be doing some special stuff down there for a lot of the Europeans for the DKP 60th anniversary. There's going to be a show going on, and I'll be getting more details about that whole weekend coming up here soon because a lot of guys from Europe are going to be in town. So that's going to happen on the weekend of the 15th and whatnot. So the next time I'll be at a show will be in June, and that's going to be the GermanAir.ca is the website for that show. And that is the Niagara German Air Car Show and Social, which that kicks off on Friday night with a cruise, or Saturday is a cruise. And well, I should get my facts straight, but it is the weekend of June 21st and 22nd. So that's going to be a good event we're going to be heading to in Canada. So if you guys are up in that area, up in the Northeast, make sure you guys cross the border, come check us out. We'll be doing that. I know Bobby's going to be driving out there. He's going to be towing his car out. I may fly out to Buffalo, across the border from there. Details are about hammered out. And that's going to be June 21st, 22nd. And then the next event I'll be at after that is going to be, there may be some events I'll be in sprinkling between. The next major event that I'll be at is going to be a Viva Skeg Vegas in the UK. And that's going to be August 15th and 16th. So check those events out, guys. If you're in those areas, man, come by, hit me up, send me a message, DM me, let me know you'll be there. I'll bring you guys a little special something from Vegas. So, other than that, Tori, we're getting ready for the year of events kick off, which is usually topped off at the very end in October with One Crazy Weekend. And there's this year, there's going to be a whole 80s debut section of a bunch of 80s cars being built. You're building one.
I'm financing one. Steve Connect is actually doing most of the building. I can't take credit for that,
right.
But yeah, it's definitely a partnership. We're having a blast. It's kind of a dream come true to be working with, a VW legend like that, because he was responsible for some of the coolest cars in the 80s, obviously, like Future Shock and Shockwave, among a bunch of other, notchbacks that got magazine coverage. And so, yeah, we've been having a blast with it. It's a really cool car. It's a car that he started back in the 80s that Chris Addington ended up buying and basically stashed it away for like 30, 40 years. And so we drug it out of retirement and we're redoing it, and everyone will see it for the very first time at One Crazy Weekend. Yeah,
it was super cool. I remember the first, when I drove up to Chris Addington's place to interview him, that car was in his garage. And as he gave me the whole nickel tour of everything, I was checking it out, and I was like, dude, this is like stopped in time with the graphics that were on it and all that good stuff. And I thought it was so cool. I was like, man, if I needed another project in my life, which I've got more than enough projects to get through, I thought it'd be so cool. And I'm really stoked that you ended up getting it and that you're going to be putting that car on the road. So that's super cool. So you're doing that car, which is like a full blown custom roadster. It's going to be called Aftershock, aka Tori's Dream, right? I think that's what Bob and I are calling it, Tori's Dream, but it's Aftershock is the name of it, and it's going to be kind of a real custom convert. Well, it's a custom roadster Beetle.
It is. So it started life as a real 1960 convertible. So it's a factory convertible, which is cool because it's got all the factory reinforcement stuff. It's not like we just hacked the top off of it. But it's a car that Steve wanted some creative freedom with it. He never really got to build like a full custom Beetle back in the day. It was mostly like Type 3s that he was doing, and, helped out with Rodbuster at one point, which is obviously a Gia. And he kind of always wanted to do a Beetle. And I was like, well, this is like the perfect car. You started on it. You never got to finish it. Let's do it for, One Crazy Weekend thing. And so he's going to put a bunch of touches on it. I mean, what's great about Steve is he and I see eye to eye on this car, like from the beginning to end. Like we both just been like, yes, like we'll throw an idea out, and we've never really been like, nah, I'm not really feeling that, or no, that doesn't really go with the, the vision I have. We just have really seen eye to eye on everything with this project. And so it's kind of a car that he wants to put some touches from, from Future Shock and Shockwave, all these other cars that he's done in the past, but kind of roll them into a Volkswagen, a Beetle. He never got the chance to do that. And so with this, he's kind of got the creative freedom to put those touches on this car. And I hope he's wrong, but he said it's the last Beetle or Volkswagen that he's probably ever going to do. This is kind of his, icing on the cake as far as custom VWs. So we're going to try and end it with a bang.
No, I'm excited to see that there's 4 cars that are going to be coming out for the 80 stuff. Russell Ritchie is restoring the NorCal Looker, which is the car that kind of got his juices flowing with respect to the VW scene. Andy Finch is kind of redoing his Texas Brown Gia, but doing it more of an 80s vibe. And then Bob Daniels is doing the One Crazy 68 is what he's doing. And then you're doing Tori's Dream. And then speaking to Keith Dean, he's building a square back mini truck type custom deal, and everything he does is super rad. So he's hoping to debut that at the show. I'm pushing Kenny Fitzer to have his wide body drift bus at the show. So we'll see if we can get. I'm really pressing Kenny to be at the event, but there's going to be some more cars in that debuting. But it's really cool because we're kind of doing an 80s vibe. I think Paul Davis is working on something for the event as well. So
yeah, I think he said he wanted to do a Type 3 for the event too, like 80s style. So
yeah.
He's in.
So there's a lot of cool stuff going down for this year's One Crazy Weekend, and I'm super excited for it. I talked to my boys in the Virgin Island. They're coming up. Boogie and Kwesi are coming up. And so I'm excited for that. And it's definitely going to be a sweet event this year, man. There's going to be a ton of cool stuff. So many people coming in from overseas. It's nuts, man. So I don't think I'll have a car sitting at home. I think everyone will have a driver in it, which I'm super excited to get that rolling. So, and who knows, maybe even by then I was hoping to get my split back here soon so I could maybe have my split finished for this year's event, but we'll see. We're still kind of plugging away and working through some things right now, but yeah, it's going to be rad. So if you guys have not registered for One Crazy Weekend, you can go get set up for the show today. Go book your rooms. Go to letstalkdubs.com, and all those links will be under that'll be under the link that says Showtime. So I'm super excited about that. And, as we're looking at the whole 80s thing, I've been going through my garage, looking at tons and tons of stuff. And, I have Future Shock, which is an over-the-top 80s build. I've got the Chop Rod, which is, the chopped 80s bug on BRMs. And those cars are both super fun. I really, one of my goals is drop off Future Shock over my buddy's place and just have him get it. I just got to get the transmission leak fixed so that I can just have things. I mean, that thing, man, I put a charge in the battery and that thing just fires up every time. It's got a nice little 1776 and it's
That's
a cruiser.
Awesome.
All I'm going to do is clean up some of the wiring in there, put a old school stereo system. I got a Punch Peanut 30 amp for that thing and a couple 6-inch bazookas to go behind the rear seat. And
perfect. That's all you need.
And I got an Alpine head unit for it. So that thing will be, hopefully that thing will be cruising around this weekend, the weekend of One Crazy Weekend as well. So another thing I wanted to bring up, we currently sent out some letters for some sponsors on that, to sponsor some of the builds that are going on. So I sent some letters out to, I reached out to CIP1, I reached out to J-Bugs, I reached out to Wolfsburg West, I reached out to SoFine, and I reached out to West Coast Metric. And so far, West Coast Metric got back to me. They're on board. So shout out to West Coast Metrics for supporting the VW scene and supporting some of the builds for this for One Crazy Weekend 80s debuts. And then also heard back from SoFine Interiors. So we'll be talking to those guys come Monday, see what we can't do to get those guys on board. But if you guys are interested in sponsoring, being a sponsor to the event, helping some of the guys that are building some of these cars get them done, you guys can reach out to me at bill@letstalkdubs.com. Part of what that package is going to get you is all the marketing through all of the social medias between all of us that are involved, in addition to here on Let's Talk Dubs, and the listeners here will get to know who's down to help push and support the scene, man. So I'm excited about that. It's really turning out to be a pretty good deal, but we are going to have a program for this year's event, and any of the sponsors that are going to sponsor the event, they'll also have included with their sponsorship package will be, they'll have a vendor display set up, because we'll have room for a lot more vendors this year. So they'll be able to have a vendor display set up, and then they can be included in the program with a full page marketing piece for them. And so it's pretty cool, man. We put out that program every year, and last year's the first year we did it. And so this next year we're going to do it. It'll be a little bit bigger, have a little more content from the few years past, some pictures, some shows, results from the past years. And then obviously Joey's car is going to be on a bunch of the stuff because of, him winning the event last year. So it's going to be definitely something it's kind of a hang on to it program for the event. Kind of shows who was where and what, but I'm excited for all that, man. It's really shaping up to be a killer year this year. And I'm excited this year. We're going to be adding an actual poker tournament, like a live poker tournament where you're going to win Volkswagen prizes. So if you guys watch poker on TV and you really think that's fun, that's going to be a great time too. Cause I really, in my mind's eye, envision a bunch of people in the VW scene, all at poker tables playing for a final table for some prizes and whatnot. And then there's also gonna be a bowling tournament that's gonna be put on. So the poker tournament is gonna be put on by VW Trends, and the bowling tournament is gonna be put on by Ross Wolf. So we're gonna have a poker tournament, a bowling tournament, the strip cruise, the car show, and the world famous poker run. We give away cash money. And this year I may find out some extra hidden Easter eggs during the poker run where you might be able to get some bonus cash. So I'm just trying to make it to where anybody through luck and opportunity can win a little extra cash, because I just love giving away cash. It's such a cool thing to do at the show. So yeah, I'm excited and going through all this stuff, thinking about the 80s cars. We talked about this before, and they have that cow look diagram of like what makes a cow look car, and then what makes an 80s car an 80s car. So Tori, in your opinion, what are some of the quintessential things that make an 80s car what it is?
I mean, it's funny. I'm revisiting a lot of these things, right? Because I kind of want to stay true to this car that I'm building with Steve. And originally, like I really wanted to just preserve the car, but unfortunately it was kind of too far gone. Like it sat for a while. The paint was showing its age. But I mean, I would say definitely like the colors are like the biggest. You've got to have some kind of a crazy pastel color. I know there weren't graphics on a lot of 80s cars, but for me, like the graphics are going to play a huge role, just because graphics just scream 80s, and the color schemes. And I think wheels definitely, they're obviously, we have a lot of wheel choices now because so many of them are being reproduced. But, like when your chop rod car was built originally, there weren't a lot of guys rocking BRMs back then. That was kind of a bold choice for him.
Yeah.
Simply because, it was most of the really hardcore cowlick guys that had those wheels, because they were, $6-8 grand a set back then, if you could even find them. So I think wheels were another one of those things that I was like, what, the car that I just got from Chris Addington didn't really have any wheels on it. Just had some rollers, some steelies. Right. And so I thought, what's a good wheel choice for an 80s car? And I think polished 2 liters, it being a 4-lug car, because it's on a later pan, were like the perfect choice, because a lot of the cars back then had polished 2-liter alloys. I think those look really, really good. And a lot of cars just had chromies on them with, nipple caps or, Porsche hubcaps. And so I think the wheels and the color are probably the 2 biggest. Most of the cars I think were probably dechromed, I would say. This one's going to be dechromed, obviously. This one's going to be a little more, the one that I'm doing with Steve's going to be a little more full custom. I mean, it's got suicide doors that Steve did back in the 80s. We're just putting better latches in them and doing, remote poppers and things like that. But
kind of updating it.
It's got, exactly. But it's got, we're trying to stay true to the age as well, because it's got one of his original SKS dashes, the fiberglass dash console in it still, thank God. That survived all these years. So I've got that. Let me think. What else makes an 80s car an 80s car?
And so, but there's also a couple different angles, right? There's like the 80s car show car stuff, which is like the graphics, the paint, the detail. But then there was like the average dude in the 80s who just wanted something cool.
Right. And, like a driver.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you'd start off with anything from, a 50s to an early 70s Beetle.
Yep.
And it's like, there's a couple of things that were for sure that, let's say if you had to look at a car and say, oh, that car was built in the 80s, it was going to be something like usually a pretty close to bolt-on wheel, right? Either a 5-spoke, an 8-spoke, Porsche 2-liter, Rivieras, those type of wheels.
Yeah, people weren't really re-drilling drums back then. I mean, they had tech articles on doing that, but not a lot of people did that. It was mostly, if you're going to run Porsche
if you
5-lugs, you used adapters,
on most, I remember seeing show cars with drum brakes and then polished adapters on top of the drums, so
which is hilarious.
It's those types of things. And what's even crazier is like, you'll do stuff where, that's kind of the list I came up with. Like when you buy your car, okay, you bought a 60, 50, 70, whatever. And now, hopefully because you're doing an 80s build, you may have dodged and this is not to say there wasn't any cool 80s Super Beetles, right? But there was You were hoping maybe it wasn't a Super Beetle or not, because then you could make it, then they kind of look a little more timeless from the body design. But it's like the step one, you get your bug and you're like, okay, the first thing I got to do is lower it, right? So you got to get that rail stance. So first thing you do is hammer out some leaves in the top beam. If you didn't have like, and we're going back to like hood style. Like if you don't have the money and you're just doing whatever you can to get by, then
dude, I knew people that would put bags of cement under the hood just to get the front down.
Yeah,
like I literally had a friend that like he didn't have the money to lower the car, but he could afford some 135s, so he had the 135s on the stock wheels. And he put a like 50-pound bag of cement in the front, and it dropped it maybe an inch or two. But yeah, I mean, you had to do what you had to do as a broke high school kid.
Yeah. There was a dude in my car club back in the day, and that's what his name was Kirby, because he had a parking curb under the hood of his Super Beetle to lower it. And,
that's hilarious.
And that's what his nickname, I don't even remember the dude's name, man. We all just called him Kirby from that point forward. But so, it'd be like lower the front. And then next thing would be like, if you pulled the chrome off, you just kind of bondo those holes in. And then a lot of people just primer their car or try to do a little paint touch to match, put some T-bars on it. So you get rid of the bumpers and kind of clean the look up. And then the fastest
baby turbo mirrors, man. You had to do baby turbos.
Like you'd do baby turbos, and then you'd get like I remember, so my first bug that I bought in like 89 or 89, it may have been 90, right? That I got it. It was a 62 bug, all primered, no interior, on stock smoothies with inner tubes, and 135s in the front, 145s in the rear. And I mean, it was freaking slammed. Like it was sitting on the stoppers in the front, because they didn't cut the stoppers off. And then it was just slammed in the back with no suspension. And it just had the wheels were the only thing that had paint on them, and they were painted like Ford Grabber blue. And it had Porsche nipple hubcaps, and that was it. Like that was, and it had one baby turbo on it. And all the chrome was shaved, all the holes were filled. It was just primered. And I bought that car for $200. That was my 62 bug. And it was a rat trap, dude. It was a half custom project. Like the rain gutter on the driver's side was shaved, not completely. It had a couple tack welds holding it together. And then the driver's side door was suicide. They had a 65 and later door on the passenger side, just open regular, and a rain gutter. Awesome. So it was like I was fronting all the time. I had one piece windows in it, and I was fronting all the time. Like I'd pull on the mirror.
Well, it just needed to look cool when you're going down the strip from the driver's side. Anyway, right?
So and again, it was a mid project. My favorite was sold to me like there was a picture of a bug that was like this burgundy color on wide 5 alloys, and it was like, this used to be this bug, and I'm like, really? Dude, that's so cool. But I mean, I paid $200 for it, right? So I paid $200 for this bug. And I drove that bug to like Canyon Country, California from Vegas, which is like a 5-hour ride.
Wow. It's probably a rough ride sitting on the snubbers.
And it's on the 138. It's on the Pearl Blossom Highway, which is like a 2-lane death highway.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm rolling 135s at inner tubes with a 40 horse motor. And that's where I figured out a lot of stuff, right? Because I had a 40 horse and I was just getting in the game. So I would go to Nevada Off-Road Buggy here in town, and I would go there. I'd literally bring my check from the Olive Garden. I would endorse the back. I would pick stuff that I want. They would deduct it from my check and then give me the difference in cash.
That's amazing.
Like literally, they literally did that every Friday. People would endorse their checks, give them the checks, and then they would give the people their change. Like they would do kind of like a check cashing, but pick up your parts while you're here type thing.
Sure.
And I went through, and I remember they had chrome engine kits, and I was like, yeah, dude, I'll get a chrome engine kit. Well, when I got home, bro, like the top pulley fit, that was it. Cause it was a 40 horse. So like, everything else was like, I pulled the whole top off the motor, painted all that Ford blue, put it all back together, and then tried to make whatever fit. The exhaust would never fit because a 40 horse is smaller than a 1600. So, but it was just going through those motions of trying to find something, a little part here, a little part there, just keep trying to do a little something all the time.
Oh yeah, I remember deck lid standoffs were all the rage too. Everyone I knew like that had a bug that was trying to like make it custom. We all put deck lid standoffs on our car.
Yeah,
And back then you lost your spring. Like you didn't have the spring. Like now they have the little hoodlum deck lid kit that you can keep the spring, which is great. I have one on bad temper and it's super handy. But back then we didn't have that. So like it was so dumb because not only now your engine's getting wet every time it rains, but now you lost your spring too. So you had to put like a broomstick in your back seat to prop it up. So like we did such stupid stuff back then in the pursuit of cool.
Well, we had the screwdriver that went in the slot.
You can do that trick too. Yeah, until you forget that it's in there and try and close it one time, and then it tweaks everything, and then you know.
Yeah, it's always
don't do that again.
That's always the thing. But it was a simpler time, and as I started going through, so we're gonna play a game now, you and me.
Okay.
And no cheating, bro. So don't get no magazines out. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. So
I won't.
I went through and I made a list of the typical stuff. I thought like, man, if I bought a bug, what was on my list, right? So first thing I would do is go buy a set of Porsche nipple hubcaps, right? So Porsche nipple hubcaps, and this is from one of the 1985 magazines, VW Trans. And I went through just a couple random advertisements in there. So what did a set of hubcaps cost?
Oh God, I would say probably the Porsche nipple caps. I would say probably like $8 to $10 a piece is what I would say they probably went for back then.
You're right on. It's $40 for a set of hubcaps.
Well, there you go. Cool.
$40.
Because you're paying for the Porsche crest, man. Even back then, there was the Porsche tax.
And so then the next thing would be like, because I started thinking like, what would be the typical things I'd buy? Because I put myself back in like first time car type stuff. So the next thing you'd buy is like a louvered firewall.
Sure.
How much? What do you think a louvered firewall was?
Those were like, I used to see them on sale for like $19.95, but I would say probably normally like $29.95.
So I found them advertised for $22.95 for a louvered stainless steel firewall.
That's awesome.
Now, and then the next thing you do to customize your car, obviously you got to get a steering wheel, right? So first thing you do, get rid of that dorky big old wheel and put you a really small, difficult to steer steering wheel. What are we
talking like the Formula France, what are we talking?
What do you think a steering wheel cost back in those days?
The Formula France wheels were not cheap. I use anytime I would get stuff like of that caliber, being such a broke high school kid, it was at a swap meet where you could get them for substantially cheaper because people figured out they didn't like the little, 12-inch diameter steering wheels. I would say they're probably like $64.95 to $74.95, depending on the Formula France wheel that you probably got. And I only remember that because I could never afford them.
So the La Carrera wheel, right?
Okay.
Like the Formula France one. It's more, a regular Grant wheel was like $39.
Oh yeah. And you could get those at Pep Boys all day long. Like you didn't even have to mail order away for those. You could go to the store and buy one of those and they'd have the Boss kit like right there.
Yeah.
You just need
correct
kit.
This is including the adapter. But the La Carrera wheel was $80. That was kind of the upgraded wheel or the upgraded steering wheel. Yeah. And then, so the next thing you step up to right after the hubcaps is like a set of wheels. If you're going to get a set of wheels. So a set of wheels would cost you how much back then for, let's say, a pair of 5 spokes?
I remember like an MP8 or an MP5 spoke, and we're talking like the rocket ones, not like real 2-piece ones, obviously. Like these are all the like the 80s cheaper, knockoffs or whatever.
All 80s
I remember those were typically like $50 to $60 a piece. Like you could usually get a set of wheels for like $200.
Yeah. But believe it or not, they were about $280 for a set of 4 wheels.
Wow.
So, and I'm going like
even more than what I remembered.
Well, they're about $40. $40. Well, it's a little, because I went with the higher, like you get like a Riviera for like $30 a wheel. But then if you stepped up to like the 5 spoke and stuff like that, it was a little
they were a little more.
So that's what I did. I picked 5 spokes. I'm building this car in my head. I had a budget and I paid big money for the car in this imaginary list that I made. So I paid $1,500 for the car, which if you bought a bug for $1,500 back in the day, like in the 80s, you're paying a lot for that bug because usually bugs would sell for easy under $1,000 all day.
Oh yeah. So not the 66 that I have, like the nice car that I never drove to high school, but my actual high school car was a 75 Standard Beetle. And my dad was working at a dealership, and they took it in on trade-in for like $500. And it was like a beautiful car. I mean, it had been taken care of. Like, I ruined it. I lowered it. I put different parts on it. I completely screwed that car up.
Right.
It was like lime green and white by the time I was done with it, with Hawaiian rubber and a stinger. And I mean, that poor car, I abused that car so bad.
Yeah.
I did so many stupid things. But the other thing too with the prices that you have to remember as well is we're so spoiled now with free shipping. Like, you can buy thousands of dollars of parts from CIP1 and it's free shipping because it's over $100 or whatever. Free plug to CIP1, get back with us on those parts. Anyways, but like back then you had to pay freight, you had to pay shipping like that. You had to factor that in as well, which is another reason that I would go to VW shows and go to the swap meets and just buy the stuff for free and not have to worry about shipping was not, you didn't have to pay for shipping. Like, it was free. You just got it and then you just paid for the parts. But, that's something else you always had to factor in as well. We're so spoiled these days with, I mean, I know everything's expensive now, but free shipping's a game changer.
Yeah. And
we didn't have that luxury back then.
Yeah. So let's see. And so like what you would do after that is after you do the wheels, let's say you decided you wanted to lower it the right way. Like, dude, I'm getting an adjustable front beam. How much was an adjustable front beam?
That was probably a lot more. I would say at least $150, $200. And depending on, like, that's probably not even spindle to spindle either. That's probably just the beam part.
No, again, you're a broke kid, high school, maybe just out of high school. So you're just buying just the beam, right? So you're not buying a narrowed beam. You're just buying
No, exactly.
Beam with adjusters in it was $100.
There you go. I mean, that's pretty cheap, but I mean, it was a lot of labor too. I mean, I had to go that route, and I had never taken a front end off of a VW before, a front beam. But I learned, but that was a lot. It was a lot of work. I learned a lot, but yeah, it sounds easy. Like, when you're a kid, like, oh, $100, like, I can get that thing, lowered in a weekend, whatever. Man, I tell you what, come Sunday afternoon, you're starting to stress because you still gotta get this thing back together. I had to go borrow a tool to like break the ball joints loose. And I mean, yeah, it was a lot. I learned a lot that weekend, but I did it.
Yeah. That's what everybody did though. That was kind of the VW credo, right? Like, you're going to work on it over the weekend and then figure out a way to get it. Like, Saturday was your day that you're going to blow it apart and try to get it done by Saturday night to go cruising or something like that. So,
and definitely by Monday morning, because that's what I was taking to school,
Yeah. So, a beam with adjusters was $100. That would fix your lowering problem. And then let's say you just decided you wanted to just get rid of all the chrome and just put cow look rubber, right? So so I'm assuming you bought a used car, you needed cow look rubber for the windows, and you needed like new door kits, not complete door kits, like a door seal and just your fender beading, gaskets like that. Like, nothing, you're not blowing the windows apart and all that stuff. You're just doing like a cursory, typical high school dude, like, I'm putting new door rubber, right? So you just got the door seals and the windows and some fender beading and stuff like that. How much do you think all that costs?
Well, I know you could get the window kits, the cowlook kits all day long for like $20, which now that's probably 4 times that, I would imagine, for rubber. The door kits, gosh, I wouldn't even know. I mean, definitely less than $100 on those. I remember, and I think you have one still, that they used to have the mat where, I mean, if you were really ghetto and poor, like, you had to get the mat where you cut it out with like an X-Acto knife, which was just like the worst quality rubber ever. And I mean, you could get a whole mat of all of those for like $10, I think. I mean,
yeah, that came with the turn signals, the bumper guards,
everything,
like,
too.
Everything.
I mean, like, it was ridiculous.
It's pretty ingenious though. The guys are just firing it off in one shot like that.
Sure, it is. I'm sure the profit margin on that was ridiculous, but I mean, like, it's got to look like crap when I mean, I don't care how steady your hand is. Like, it's not punched out by a machine. It's got to look terrible. There's some people. Fortunately, I never had to do that.
There's some people with a steady hand, make it look good. So all the rubber, if you bought all the rubber, I mean, again, we're not talking pan off. We're just talking like 80s build. Like, you're not taking anything off the pan. You're just kind of doing what you're doing. All the rubber, and this is going a little on the high side. I was at $75 for all the rubbers. I looked at like
that's amazing.
The different kits and all that stuff. And then carpet kit, right? For sure you do a carpet kit because it usually all the Volkswagens came with rubber floor mats that were all usually probably worn out and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So carpet kit, what do you think a carpet kit cost back then?
I think, like, depending on if it was a 7-piece or the 10-piece, you could usually get like the entry level one for like 60 or $70, I believe.
So a carpet kit, the typical carpet kit was $32.
No way. Well, then that was
$32.
for the deluxe. Then I guess the $70.
No, bro, I'm a high school kid, dude. I ain't buying nothing deluxe, dude. I'm just trying to get.
No, dude.
I'm like,
bare bones.
new carpet looks better than a rubber mat with a giant hole in it, right? So.
That 100%. I mean, that carpet's a game changer. I mean, even the crappy like black, whatever loop carpet, whatever. I mean, I remember the first carpet kit I ever put in a bug, and I was really impressed. It looks really good. I mean, don't rub your feet on it or you'll have a hole in it in a couple of weeks. But the first time you put it in, you step back, it looks great.
Right. So,
I mean, what did we know about German square weave back then? We were just,
well, and I'm just thinking
trying
like,
to make something look good.
If you had a job back in the day and, you're over there looking at, like you're trying to figure out what, like every Friday you're getting paid and you're going, and so for me, this is like over a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is over a series like 4 or 5 months. I built this car, this imaginary car on this list. So the next thing you do after the carpet kit, you get door panels. What do you think a set of velour door panels goes for? Not the janky ones, bro. The velour ones, dude.
$129.95.
All four door panels.
$129.95 for all four.
$100, like $98. $100
Jeez.
for 4 velour door panels.
Jeez.
Yeah. So then it's usually the headliner's pretty decent in the Beetles. They're not all torn up. You might hit it with some spray paint or some fabric paint or whatever. But the wink mirror's got to go in. So first thing you do is ditch that stock backup mirror, dude. And you put that wink mirror in there so you can cut across.
I had the wink mirror.
What do you think the wink mirror cost?
$20.
$15 for a wink mirror.
There you go. I mean, they were turning those out. They still sell those actually. It's funny. They don't sell the panels. Like I found one of the louvered panels, and that's going to be going on Bob's 80's car. I got that back for him, which is going to be really cool because it's a stainless steel panel that basically attaches to the back side of the wing mirror so you can see it through the windshield. So he's super stoked about that because he's going to have like a little louver theme going on with that car. And I couldn't really use it on the Roadster. But those are impossible to find. You cannot find those anymore. But the actual wing mirror, Impy still sells those. Like you can still buy those on CIP1.
You can, bro.
And a lot of golf carts use those, I think. Like, all the people that have communities where you can ride a golf cart or whatever, like they all have wing mirrors in them. So yeah.
And so
funny
to top off. So now you got the wink mirror. You also get the baby turbos, right? The Tornadoes, the turbos. I was a turbo fan of the turbos, but I
was a turbo fan too. They were just more sleek. They reminded me more of I actually think there was an electric baby turbo that was standard on Lamborghini Countachs, I believe. I believe that's correct. But I know Vitelloni made the original baby turbos, baby Tornadoes, and then of course they got knocked off and people copied them or whatever. But the original Vitelloni mirrors were really, really nice.
Yeah.
And they're expensive if you can find them now. Like I have a few sets of NOS Vitelloni baby turbos, and they are like hundreds of dollars now.
What's
if you
funny
can find them.
After looking at them, I actually like the Tornadoes bigger. I like the Tornadoes better a little bit.
The Tornadoes look cool if you color match them. Like that's what was always cool about the baby turbos is you didn't have to color match them, and I felt like they looked good because they were so sleek, and I just like the accordion looking, arm on them. But yeah, the Tornadoes look great. Like they are really nice. I think Bob's actually putting those on his 68. But they look killer when you color match them. I love when the backside is color matched. They look really, really good. But I was always a baby turbo guy myself.
And then after the turbo, so you get the turbo mirror. So this is me in my head going to the store every week. Now seat covers. So you're going to get replacement seat covers, but you're not getting the cheap ones. You're getting the velour ones. How much are the velour seat covers?
Are we talking the snap-on ones, or are we talking you got to take them to a shop and get them reupholstered?
No, we're talking inexpensive. They probably snapped on. They're probably. I mean, again, we're talking high school budget, bro. Right?
Probably $50-$60 you could get those for.
So I found those for sale, velour seat covers for $90 for the front and rear seats.
Wow,
$90. $90.
That's amazing.
And then after you do the seat covers, then you're stepping up. You're going like, dude, I need to do the one-piece windows in this. What do you think a one-piece window kit cost back then?
I think those were like $100 all day long.
a one-piece window kit was $60.
Were they really?
For one, that's the felt channels.
Wow, that's way cheaper than I remember them being.
Yeah, the felt channels, the scrapers, like everything was $60 back then.
Wow.
So, and then, right, so you bought a 66 or earlier, so you got to go roll with the Rossies, and a set of Rossies is going to cost you how much?
Well, it depended. Were they Rossies or were they Bossies?
No, these are Rossies.
Because
those are Rossies.
The plastic ones were crap, and they were super cheap. The real Rossies, man, I think those are probably like at least $80, I would say, a pair, even back then for the metal ones.
The real Rossies were $40 a pair, $39.95.
Were they really?
Yeah.
That's way cheap. Way cheap.
$39.95. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Man.
And
they're all in Brazil now for some reason.
Yeah, and then
like every bus down there has those.
And then you get a set of T-bars, get rid of the bumpers. You put the T-bars on there because they make it faster. And so you're going to pay for 4 T-bars. What do you think it's going to cost you back then?
Are they black or chrome? Because that made a huge difference in price.
Cheapest ones you can find.
So black, probably $20.
$30. $30 there you go. For 2 pairs. And now you're stepping it up, right? You got your choice between the Monza exhaust. Because like in the 80s, like if you were doing 80s and that Monza came out, you were like, bro, a Monza exhaust? I got to get a Monza exhaust, because you were like, oh, bro, it's got the Ferrari sticker on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the prancing horse sticker. Come on, dude.
The dual quiets.
It burns off within the first 5 minutes of you firing the car up, by the way.
Yeah, the dual quiets were a little bit more. But the Monza exhaust, how much was the Monza exhaust back in those days?
I would say $70 for that.
$49.99.
Are you serious? They were that cheap? Wow.
Monza exhaust. And then of course now you're starting to do some engine mods and whatever. So you go get yourself, the first thing you get you is your 009 distributor, so you can really get busy with the power. So what are you paying for 009 back in the day?
Well, I know they used to have a kit where you'd buy a blue coil and then a 009. I want to say they were like $64.95 for the kit, but you also got the coil too, and maybe like a set of plug wires.
Yeah. So
what is it just for the 009?
The 009 was $30 for a 009. But now you got to remember, this is the mid 80s, and you're starting to see some of that billet stuff coming out. So now you're like, bro, I'm getting me some billet stuff. So now this billet package that I built is the e-brake handle, right? It is the glass fuel filter. It is the billet oil cap. It is the billet dipstick, the billet dash inserts.
Oh my gosh.
And then the billet hood hinges.
Which I just bought a pair of those for the car that I'm building with Steve. And let me tell you, I'm sure I paid a lot more than what they were originally.
And so how much is all that billet stuff setting you back?
For all of those? Yeah. Oh, man. I would say less than $100 for everything.
Nope. $120.
Was it really? That's pricey for back then.
That's big money. It's big money.
I think I paid close to that just for the hinges just recently. And thank God, like I really wanted those because, like I said, I'm trying to stay true to like 80s and finding NOS. I tell you what, finding NOS like Johnny Speed and Chrome type stuff, which is what these hood hinges were, it's not easy because that was an early car that we're building. It's a 60, and so obviously it had the prop rod originally for the front hood, and so Steve and I wanted to convert it to like the hydraulic struts. And I was like, well, if we're going to do that, like, let me try and find a set of those really cool, like, machined billet hinges, you know? And I didn't think I'd be able to find a pair. And it was actually a guy that you knew. I found him when we were on the trip coming back from Steve's, dropping the car off, if you recall. And a buddy of yours, I guess, has, like, a pretty big stash of, like, NOS 80s stuff. And so he made me a deal on them. But, yeah, I mean, good luck trying to find some of those. They're not easy. And if you go on Bob's 80s page, like on Facebook, there's always people like, that's a great resource just to find parts. Cause I think I put like a wanted ad on there and it was like, hey, I'm looking for a set of these, 80s aluminum hinges, billet hinges, if anyone knows. And there were a lot of people that are looking for those same hinges. And this guy chimed in and fortunately for me had a pair, but yeah, I guess all that stuff just ended up in the landfill or times and tastes change over the years, and a lot of those parts just ended up in the trash bin.
Yeah, I remember.
It got replaced with German stuff because a lot of stuff didn't fit great either. That's the problem. Like, it looked really cool, but now my hood doesn't close, or now the gaps are all off, or the quality control was not what it is with some of the other parts today.
No, I mean, they really started. They just made whatever they could. I mean, think about it, so cheap. Like, you get a whole chrome kit for the motor, the fan shroud, the backing plate, and the cylinder covers.
Right.
Like all that chrome and the part that covers the generator, right? The piece of steel that goes around the generator. So now you have a whole chrome engine. What do you think that costs you for the whole chrome, the shroud, the cylinder tins, the backing plate, and the alternator cover or the generator cover?
But not the fan housing, right? Because the fan housing was always made.
The fan shroud, the whole fan.
It does have the fan shroud too.
The fan shroud, the backing plate.
I'd say $75 for everything.
$60, dude.
Jeez.
$69. Yes, you're $70. You're right.
You can't even buy just the fan shroud for that now.
And this is probably
not chrome.
And what I'm not even thinking of. I'm not even thinking about what is it? I just turned the page and it just changed my mind. I'm not even thinking about the chrome. It's
like the breastplates in.
Yeah, it's no breastplates, none of that stuff. It's literally just the shroud, the backing plate, the cylinder covers. $69. And it's I just turned the page and I ran across because as I have my reference magazine here, the January 85 Hot VWs, and I'm looking at billet bug products. And I actually I posted something on an Instagram video, and a guy, it was a picture of the billet bug trophy that was with Future Shock. That was from Small Car Specialties car show. And it's got a clock where the speedo goes. And the guy says, "Hey,"
oh yeah, I know the trophy you're talking about.
The guy makes a comment to me and he says, "Hey, that's one of 2 of those trophies that we ever made. Me and my brother made them." And then I hit the guy up and said, "Hey, what's up? Let's do a podcast." So I'm trying to track down the guys from Billet Bug to talk to them about all the parts and stuff they used to make, because they made all.
That'd be a really interesting podcast, because I remember like kind of when the billet craze hit, and like they had to have been printing money. I mean,
it's starting in 85 with Volkswagen. So I'm in the 85 Hot Vetoes, which I'm thinking in my head, that seems early for the billet stuff, but it's not, because it's in the hot rods and Volkswagens are right there. So they're just like, yeah, let's make bug parts,
right.
We'll sell them these.
And
bug
it was
guys.
popular. I mean, I could never afford it just because I was, just a kid and whatever else. Like, but I mean, a lot of the high end show cars that I would go see at these, at these car shows, like they were deep in the billet game,
Yeah, like the gauge panel where you cut up your dash, but that solid panel that had 6 gauges in it. That was that was $60. You could either get your entire engine chromed or that billet panel, and like the oil filler caps were like $20. The groove steering column, $30.
Wow.
It's just crazy. It's cool stuff. And I'd love to talk to the guys and hear the story about how they got into it, and what else they did besides that. But
yeah, you got to track them down. That'd be a really interesting story. I would love to know.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the story on the original VW, the original billet guy. So I'm going to.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I got to track the guy down. I hit him up and sent him a message, and I never heard back from the guy. So I really got to, because I know people that know him, and I just got to get him.
Weren't they on the East Coast?
No, dude. Newport Beach is where they're.
Oh, were they really? Okay. Gotcha.
One of the things that I don't have on my list, but I just saw it here, were the colored distributor caps.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah. Oh, you could probably pick those up for like $5 or $6. I'm sure they were everywhere.
$7.75.
There you go.
A piece for.
I have a hot pink one somewhere. I don't know if I'll use it because they're so crappy. But
that was the thing, right? First thing you do is you go to the mechanic shop. He's like, throw this piece of trash. Like, wait a second, bro. That's clear, and you can see the sparks at night.
Yeah, exactly. Because so many people can see your engine at night if you don't have a Baja, right?
So, you take the deck here in the desert, man. We never get rain, so we just take the deck lid off almost on everything, just because we would like to, it's all about.
No, you got to show off your rotor spark, man. Come on.
Well, it's just about keeping it cool out here, man, because I'm sure we got the timing advance too far and all that fun stuff. So,
I mean, does your car run cooler without a deck lid? I mean,
well, at least
I'd love
when
to
you're
see a
when you're
Mythbusters on
when
that
you're
one.
18, bro, it does. When you're 18
Yeah.
and you're hot rod it by advancing the timing, putting the
when
the
you're 18,
009.
you know more than the German engineers, right?
Yeah, bro, you're putting the 009 on it, bro. You're talking big power. I put a 009, some ratio rockers, bro. I'm ready to drag race now.
Yeah.
But
So funny.
and so now you moved on from the bill of parts, and now you're just really gonna hop it up, bro. You get yourself a set of dual caddies, dude. Dual cadrones, dude. What's that whole setup cost you?
I'm gonna say $200
Set of
for everything.
dual cadrones is $150, bro.
Wow.
$150.
Gee, that's
for a set of
manifolds,
dual-
air cleaners, linkage, everything. Turnkey.
That's a turnkey package, bro.
Wow.
Turnkey package. Yeah, it's quite impressive, and that's now you're running a big power. Now you got dual carbs. Now what I think probably what happened at this point, you get the dual caddies. You just threw the Monza away and you put a straight up Stinger on the back, dude. Because now you're a race car. And,
Yep.
Not the dual.
See, I was always a Stinger guy. I never had the Monza 4-tip. I'm sure my neighbors hated me, but I always had a Stinger, and people at school would always stuff in it. Like I always remember one day, like I came out to go because we had open campus for lunch, so I could go home or go to Taco Bell or wherever. I remember one day I came out and started my car, and it sounded really weird. I was like, it sounds really quiet, and I revved it. And then I looked behind me and something shot out and it hit the Camaro behind me, and someone had stuffed an apple or something in my Stinger. And then it eventually just shot it out and then hit the car behind me and splattered all over it. But yeah, people were always putting crap. Someone put popcorn seeds in there, I think one time, and it smelled like popcorn for 2 weeks after that. Super annoying. But that's what happens when you run an open exhaust,
That's it. People probably walking around in high school
and you're not a
tripping on it.
popular kid in your high school in West Texas.
Yeah, they're probably tripping on it, bro. Walking around, tripping over it, getting upset.
Oh, I'm sure plenty of people burned their freaking shins on that thing too after lunch, so that's probably where the popcorn came from.
So
whatever.
after the Cadrons, you slap on you get some 135s for the front, dude. What's the price?
You could get those. You could get those for pretty cheap. I remember when those were $39 a tire.
They were $32 a tire. So
There you go.
And I don't know why mine had inner tubes in them, but mine had inner tubes. So
I remember they would advertise them, and then they would advertise the inner tubes. But I mean, I never had to run inner tubes on any of mine. I have 135s on Bad Temper. I put 135s on the polished 2 liters for this Roadster for the 80's build because I've already got the wheels and tires on. But we didn't use inner tubes on those either. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with the inner tubes.
yeah,
It's just a safety thing or what, but I've never used them. I live dangerously.
and then now you're gonna get some shocks for it because now you're just getting all serious about it. So what's a set of shocks running?
I'm sure those were cheap, dude. Probably $32 for a pair of shocks, I would imagine.
Right. So $30 for a pair of shocks.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
$30. And then the last thing I had on here was you had the car for a while, and now you're just going to go full on custom with the thing. And so you just end up doing a set of seats. You get yourself a set of Carullo seats.
Scat Pro cars or something.
Cerullo seats. Carullo.
So probably $250 a piece, maybe.
$240 a seat.
Damn, there you go. I was close. $10 off.
It's crazy. It's crazy how it's crazy.
Well, it's funny how we remember stuff like that because as kids, that was it's when you're a really little kid and you got this Sears catalog and you're I am gonna memorize this thing for Christmas, right? I gotta, I want this. That's how it was with me with the VW magazines. It was I got to figure all this stuff out because it's like you said, you built the cars in phases. It was you did as much as you could afford and could still pay your bills. Because my first job, I was working because I had to pay the insurance on my car. If I wanted to have this car, my parents are going to pay the insurance on it for me. I had to get a job and pay the insurance. So I always had to budget enough to have the insurance so I could drive it, and then obviously gas money, which was nothing back then looking back, but and then anything else I had left over went straight to the car. Straight to the car.
Yeah. So the total price to do all that stuff on a bug. So just to run through it one more time, you bought a bug, $1,500. Your first step was hubcaps and a firewall, then steering wheel, then wheels for it. After you ditched the hubcaps, you did a beam with adjusters in it, new rubber, carpet kit, door panels, wink mirror, turbo mirrors, seat covers, one-piece windows, headlights, Rossi headlights, T-bars, the Monza exhaust, the 009, the billet accessories, the dual caddies, the 135s, the shocks, and the Carullo seats. Now you got Carullo seats. So you kind of spent some money twice between hubcaps you bought. Then you stepped up to wheels because after your buddies kept mocking you, you just got the wheels. And then you got the seat covers. You got the seat covers originally, and then you stepped it up from seat covers to the Carullo seats. You spent a total of $886 to get all that stuff, and two things you did twice. You got seat covers, and then you got new seats, and then you got hubcaps, and you got wheels and tires.
So all in, you were like $2,300 and some change on the bug, right? To be cool.
Well, I paid in my imaginary purchase here. I paid a lot of money for.
I mean, $1,500 is a lot for a bug back then.
It is.
Yeah.
I bought mine for $200. I mean, now granted, mine was a Roach. But I bought my friend, my buddy Rich Petrie. I ended up getting him, my girlfriend at the time, and her driver was a 66 bug. It was all stock, and and they said the transmission was broken. It was the shift rod bushing was broken.
Oh no way! That's all it was.
He bought that car for $100.
Oh man.
So
those were the days, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I would have. I used to put like wanted ads in like the little, we called it the thrifty nickel. I think out there it was called the recycler. But like I would put wanted ads in there. And I mean, if someone had a broken bug, they would be like, just bring a tow bar, come get it. I'll sign the title over to you for free. I don't want the car. I mean, those were the days, right? Like you could get a bug for nothing.
And so to give us comparison, to buy that same exact list today.
Oh man, this is going to be good.
Today's price.
Have you done the math on this? You've already done this?
I've already got the spreadsheet put together. So I went through both these things, right? To buy that same exact stuff for $1,886 today. And I went on the place where some of the prices are the lowest, like J Bugs is where I kind of price everything.
Right.
It's $5,867 to make those same purchases. And the biggest jump up that I see is, well, you've got the same billet parts are about $600. Well, I'm sorry, not the billet parts. I'm looking at the wrong line. The dual cadrones were $150, and then you buy that Impy set that they have today, that like the Solex Barossels, or whatever. Those are $595 compared to $150. The billet parts from $150 or from $120 go up to $300. The Monza style exhaust goes from $50 to $120.
Wow.
T-bars doubled in price, 30 to 60. Rossi headlights. And so they don't have Rossi's you can buy today. So I just bought new glass bulb headlights. You can buy those without the bulbs, just the glass, the chrome ring, the inside bucket, all the stuff. They're like $38 a piece, which I thought was crazy cheap. But you're at $72 versus $40. The one-piece window kits from $60 to $246 now.
And you can't even find them because Bob was looking for a set.
Supposedly they have them on J-Bugs. That's where I got the price.
Oh, are they back in stock now? I know they were back ordered for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't see if they were in stock.
Right.
But the other thing was door panels went from $100 for front and rear to now $350 for some upgraded door panels. And then the rubber went from like $75, like $180. Carpet kit, $32 to $83. The front beam, a standard size front beam with adjusters in it, went from $100 to $325.
Jeez.
And then the wheels, $280 to $577. Steering wheel, the steering wheel is like $80 for a La Carrera, and it's today a Grant's $135. Oh
my gosh! And that was the cheap one, dude. Those were the ones you could get for like $30 back in the day.
The louvered stainless steel firewall went from $22 to $70, and then the Carullo seats, Carullo, $480 a pair to $2,200 a pair.
Jeez, seats are not cheap. Dude.
That's one of the biggest step ups on that is that right there.
That's I actually was looking at seats for this Roadster that Steve and I are building, and I was like so torn. I was like, do I just buy some new like Scat Pro Car style seats? What do I do? And I really wanted some vintage ones. I ended up settling on some Recaro LXs, which I think are really, really cool seats. And they've got the fishnet like headrests in them, which I love. I think that'll go really well with like the Roadster.
Those are like the flow fit style.
Yeah, dude, I love those seats. So I found a set, and I think I paid like $1,500, like ship. So that's not bad for a pair.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Cirillo Sport seat in Hot VW's magazine, January '85. $195 per seat. $200
that's so
seat.
Cheap.
That's crazy, right? And
that's
then for $85 a pair, you could get your rotors drilled for any you'd get blanks and drill them in any way you wanted them. So
jeez.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So really back in the day to build an 80s car cost you about $2,000. So if you're making $20,000 a year, which is like big money back in the day, that's like $12 an hour, right?
Yep. But I wasn't making anywhere near that.
So if you're making that, right, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% of your annual income is going to go to, like $1,800 to mod your bug like this. It might take you a year, right? I mean,
yep.
But now you got this cool looking bug. It's lowered, right? I mean, look, there's a Formulating France in this picture right here. It's a 3-spoke, only 14-inch black Formulating France, $11.50.
Wow.
Now, if you bought the adapter, it was $33.50.
Yep. And I remember the adapters were crazy expensive.
And this is an ad.
You get the wheel for cheap.
This is an ad I'm looking at for Barrett Enterprises. So a set of dual Cadrones are $149. Mm-hmm. If you want the proven race winner, you get the Zenith carburetor. That one carburetor is $189.
Wow.
And you get dual carbs for less than that. But yeah, it's back in those days, it wasn't too crazy. Even then, I mean, obviously total price is up 311%. 311% from then to now. Obviously everything else is up quite a bit, but even still to this day, if you bought a car and you're buying all that stuff new and you get yourself a good core beginner car, you're going to be in at $6,000 and that's no repainting. That's just new interior, new rubber, just change the stance and put some wheels on it. That's essentially what that is.
Yep.
You're going to pay $3,500. You're going to be all in the bug at a minimum, probably $8,000.
Yep.
So it's, I thought it was an interesting perspective to look at that and then compare.
That's a super interesting perspective. Like this kind of goes back to a podcast that you and I did about, why aren't VWs as popular with the young crowd anymore? I think this kind of proves it. Like, what kid can afford that, really?
I think part of the bigger issue with why there's not a bunch of kids getting into VWs is because first, it's a generational thing, and second, the kids, I mean, the average driving age right now is like 19. So kids aren't even wanting to drive.
It's amazing. Dude, yeah. I couldn't wait to get my learner's permit.
It's just couldn't
come fast enough.
Yeah, but you got to remember, we were a different generation. We had to wait for a TV show to come on. We couldn't watch everything on demand. They just click a button.
That's true.
They have instantaneous everything. So it's just a different generation. I mean, I kind of force my kids to be car guys, and they hate it when they're young, and then when they get old enough, they're like, oh, it's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm into this, I'm into that. So they start kind of through osmosis of being pressured and immersed in the car scene all the time. They become so far. I'm 2 for 3, and I think the third one's coming around. But it's just how kids are raised nowadays. I mean, they sit there and stare at their phones, and they don't even need to go anywhere. They don't go to the mall. They don't do anything because they just go on their phone. They go to everywhere. So
yeah, they don't have to go anywhere.
It's just a different scene, but it's still something that's affordable. It's still something that people can get, that they can get, they can get a high sense of self-worth by working and fixing their own car. And
I always love that feeling. Like, I don't know, like it's still to this day, like I love the process of like troubleshooting something and then fixing it. And then the enjoyment of, I did that without having to call a mechanic, like I was able to troubleshoot that. I was able to pull the motor out myself. I was able to switch this part and now it works exactly how it's supposed to. Like there's something so fulfilling about that to me still to this day. It never gets old. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's definitely something that's given me and most of our listeners, the courage to be able to work on stuff themselves and have that sense of self-worth to be able to, pull it. I mean, if you're talking like other cars, V8s and stuff like that, to be able to swap a motor in a weekend, I'm sure there's guys out there that can do it. Not the percentage of guys that are in that hobby that can do it to the equal percentage of Volkswagen people, because on the Volkswagen level, it's just so much easier. And sometimes you can do it a little bit on your own, with just you and a floor jack versus a cherry picker and 6 buddies and all that good stuff.
Exactly.
So, no, it's, I thought it was a unique thing to take a look at and just see what it would have cost back then, because I didn't, it seemed like forever it took me to get whatever I did. But at the time I'm making, I was making $7 an hour back then. So it was like at $7 an hour.
I mean, it's all relative,
like I'm buying 2 hubcaps, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'll get the other 2 in another week or 2.
Next paycheck. Exactly.
Yeah,
but you know what though? It gave you something to look forward to. And maybe that's kind of what motivated us to work crappy jobs, because it was like, we always had this other phase that we were, dreaming up in our minds. Like, oh, I cannot wait to get, I'll be able to get those other 2 hubcaps, or maybe I can finally get those dual carbs, or I can finally get that Monza exhaust. You're always thinking ahead, and it motivated you to hustle. I mean, that's what I loved about it. It was simpler times, obviously, but like, I don't know, like it was equally as fulfilling as, having money now and being able to go out, probably more fulfilling, honestly. Now you just put it on the card and you got it in 3 days. It's instant gratification. But back then it was like, you had to think about it. You had to work towards it. You had to prioritize, like, what do I want more? Do I want the baby turbo mirror? Or do I want these hubcaps? And you had to choose. And I don't know, I reflect fondly on those times. I really do. And I think that's why I still hang on to all these old magazines, because you open them and you read them and it's like going back in time. You remember who you were back then and what you were working on, and just how much simpler life seemed back then,
Well, with everything that's changed, even still to this day, I still think it even proves that it's an affordable car to build at this time. And in spite of the cost of all these things, the core expense of staying in this game, I think, is if you find the right car and you're able to, get a car that's not completely trashed and finding something decent and then being able to build it all on your own. I think that's a way more fun experience than just buying a car, having a payment, doing that. And,
I completely agree.
And with the cars that are being built, with the exception of your car, with the exception of your car and Russell's car, the other 2 cars that are being built are not being taken off the pan. They're like, buy them, leave them on the pan. No need to separate the body from the pan. Change the bolt-on stuff that you need to, and then put the thing together,
Sure.
And
I originally wanted to do that with this car, because I hadn't seen it in person before I bought it. And like, that was originally going to be our plan, right? Like, we were going to all do like kind of the 3-day build, the overhauling style, build, and make a spectacle of it and film it and whatever else. And like, when I saw the car in person, I was like, man, this thing, I mean, it's got so much potential, but like, if Steve and I are going to do this car, we have to do it right, and Steve is not a guy to half-ass anything. I mean, he, when I was out there, like, we built a little like rotisserie for the pan and the body, and like, it's crazy. Like, this will be a car that we can put mirrors under. This is going to be a car on the level of like a Shockwave when we're done with it, which is crazy. I never thought we would be doing that, but like,
I'm stoked to
it's
see
cool.
It. And then if you look at like Andy's car, it's getting painted. It's up near Lodi, getting painted at Workstat. So Workstat's going to be painting his car. And then when they get back down here, they're going to just thrash it back together, all the window rubber, all that stuff. But he's having all his upholstery done over there, and then he's going to ship it out here. So all the upholstery be shipped out of the box. Everything else is just like pull the car apart, spray it, paint it, put it back together. 80 style paint
Which
job.
is how they did it back then. Exactly. Like my car is kind of like the exception to the rule because it's like full on show car.
You're doing a full on Bakersfield job.
Yeah.
The Bakersfield,
which is what that car needed to be.
Correct.
I mean, I wanted to stay true to that. Like it's going to be kind of like the last V-Dubs limited club car ever built, kind of a thing. Hence the name Aftershock. So after all the other shock cars were built. So I'm excited for everyone to see it though. Like, I mean, I purposely, like, even if you go on my Instagram, like I have not really posted any updates because I mean, it's right now the car, we just got it back for the Media Blaster. I'm going to say 2 weeks ago. It's already in like epoxy primer. All the metal work is done on the car. Body's off the pan. It's like on a rotisserie. Steve just tonight finished doing like a really cool remote popper deck lid latch because the deck lid's all shaved. I mean, his workmanship on this car is just next level. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I'm really excited to debut this car with him at One Crazy Weekend. It's going to be really, really special. So, and everyone will get to see it for the first time.
Yeah, it's gonna be real. That's gonna be legit to see that. What's cool is, Russell's redoing the car, and the car Russell's redoing is from the November '87 cover, and it's the NorCal Looker, and it was like
I think it was like Eric Berkey was the name of the guy that had that car. I loved that car. It's yellow and white. Like people don't know which car it is. It's like white with like yellow kind of. Yeah, not really scallops, but like a graphic design going up the side.
It was like a reverse scallop type weird thing. Right. The whole front fenders, the hood was all white. But what's going to be
what I loved about that car the most is like how everything was color contrasted. Like, so the back had yellow Impy 8 spokes with white knockoffs. The front had white Impy 8 spokes with yellow knockoffs.
Exactly,
like it was everything was reversed. It looks so cool.
Yeah, exactly the opposite of that is what it was. It was yellows in the front, white in the back, but the knockoff was a contrasting color to that. And it had baby turbos and that stuff, white wipers. Cool.
Yeah, just a cool car.
Yeah,
Frenched in taillights, I think. Yeah, like had some really, and even the headlights were Frenched, I think, too, which looked really cool. Nobody had done that. Just looked really, really cool.
No, so it'd be cool to see that car and see if when it gets here, it just feels like an 80s build. Like it feels like it's back in time because, there's a discipline with restoring a car back to that time and keeping it period correct,
Sure.
And what's even more wild is like the billet window cranks. Those are in the those are available today, and they were available back in 85, 86. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I'm looking at this, and that's what's in the chop rod, and and I just think it's for me, I get my years all kind of mixed up, but then again, when I got into the scene, I'm looking at magazines in 88, 89, and I'm going backwards and getting earlier magazines and checking stuff out, So for me, the time kind of warped together where there's not a definitive, this is when this was and this is when that was. And I'm hoping one day to kind of go through all the magazines month by month and see like, okay, when's the first time I'm seeing, because we found out we're going to be interviewing the guys that narrowed the very first beam. I talked to him, and we're going to be, I want to say his name is Larry Rick, or vice versa. And we're going to sit down and do a podcast about their Volkswagen Club and some of that stuff. So I'm hoping to get those guys to sit down with me this year before we get that done, but to get the story about the first narrowed beam. But I don't recall seeing narrowed beams available for sale. I don't even know when. It had to be like late 90s, I'm thinking.
No, it was always the Puma beams like that they were bringing up from Brazil. That's the only ones I remember seeing. And those were not narrowed. They were they came from the factory with the adjusters already in them. Was the big deal. You didn't have to weld the adjusters in yourself. So
yeah, so we'll see. Again, it's that type of history and stuff that I'm looking for, trying to figure out, when these firsts were happening, because that to me, when that became popular, that was a complete game changer in the scene, because it opened up wheel tire combinations that were normally something of the past, with the exception of the couple special cars that had the special cars that had somebody, custom narrowing a beam in 1975 is when
right. And I mean, drag cars were doing it for forever,
Well, and again, they were like, they weren't doing it for fender wheel tire clearance. They were doing it just, again, it was a different thing, and they were all using all aluminum beams, and it was like, there was always that thought like, oh, you're not running aluminum beam on the street, man. That thing will bend, that's kind of the thought. So yeah, I think it was cool to go through that, walk through time and just see how much things cost and what it would take
most definitely
to do a car back then versus a car like that today. So
I'm looking forward to, I really think this year's One Crazy Weekend is going to be a walkthrough time, because there's going to be so many new, but, kind of 80s style cars. I'm really stoked to see what Kid Dean brings out. That's going to be really cool. I mean, it's just neat to know that, and Steve will be there. These guys were on top of their game in the 80s, and they're still doing it. That's just incredibly cool to me. So to see all these cars getting debuted and all of the sort of hype and seeing companies get behind us like West Coast Metric, that's just really, really cool. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be something fun to look forward to. And I'm excited for everyone to see these cars.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a good time. And remember guys, go letstalkdubs.com right now and book your room at the Orleans Hotel Casino for November 2nd through the 4th. One crazy weekend. This year's going to be rad, man. I'm super excited. We're also going to be doing a big BMX display. So if you've got old BMX bikes, bring them out. We're going to have a place inside to display all the bikes, that they'll be all secured. But wanted to definitely get as many. Last year we had about 12 bikes on display. So this year we're looking for more vintage BMX bikes to have on display. So it's just something kind of cool that people can look at, and definitely conversation starters. And if you've got some pretty rad vintage BMX stuff, and you've got any questions, hit me up, bill@letstalkdubs.com, and I'll answer any questions you got. But yeah, I'm stoked for all that stuff, man, for the vintage BMX display. Hopefully I would love to see it over the next couple of years, the BMX display just blow up into, my dream is a big toy and literature show that's VW skateboards and BMX. That'd be amazing.
Almost
like just even like an 80s, 90s collectibles, whole thing, dude. That'd
be so cool.
Yeah. There's just so much stuff of that time and era that's
Trapper Keepers.
Yeah, it's reminiscent to all of us. So.
Skateboards, all that stuff, man. That'd be so cool.
I was looking for the Trapper Keeper. I remember they had a Trapper Keeper, because you brought up Trapper Keeper. I was looking for a Trapper Keeper that it had a guy with like a blue and yellow bike, and it was like smoke and everything. And he's wearing like a full leather set and had V-bars on it. And I was trying to find it on eBay to see if they had it, because I remember having that. It was like the one time I got something for school supplies where I was just like, bro, this is so rad. And and I couldn't find it.
Those things are not cheap, dude. There's the Trapper Keeper that had like the white Lamborghini Countach on it, those go for like hundreds of dollars now if you find them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I went down that rabbit hole one night, like just looking at old vintage Trapper Keepers, and yeah, there is definitely a niche market for that stuff. So
yeah, it's insane. And how many of those things just got chucked in the trash?
Of course. Well, mine like did not hold up, because like you fold it, open it, close it enough times, then like the plastic would start to like split down the middle, and then like by the end of the school year, like it was in two pieces. So of course it ended up in the trash bin. But yeah, good luck trying to find like one that's NOS.
Yeah, that'll be that's definitely something. You know what? And while I'm on here, there's going to be there's going to be a spring picnic in in Canyon RV Park, and they're doing. Looks like they're going to be doing a bit of a tribute to Bob Lacoste, which I reissued his podcast last week and went through and cleaned up some of the audio on it, and they're going to be doing that. They're come up with a plan to do a celebration life for Bob. And so they're going to be doing that Saturday, May 3rd at the VW Spring Picnic and Car Show. It's going to be in Yorba Linda, California, May 1st through the 4th. So, I guess that's going to be going on that same weekend as well. So, tribute to celebration of life for our boy Bob Lacoste, who passed away. If you didn't get a chance to listen to his podcast, go check it out. It's really cool, and it's kind of ironic. At the end, he had just talked about a friend of his that passed away, and his buddy passed away. He said, "Yeah, man, you just never know. Life's too short." And then it wasn't but 2 years later that I had to release his podcast. So,
man, R.I.P. Bob.
Yeah, it's a shame, dude. Bob,
one of the best in the game at building cars. That's for sure. Lost a legend.
Definitely an unbelievable attention to detail he had. So, but that's going to be happening May 1st through the 4th. It's going to be it's the spring picnic going to be at Canyon RV Park. So you heard it here. This was posted yesterday here on Facebook. So that will probably be one I might be headed to, just to go down there for the old celebration of life for Bob Lacoste. So, but anyway, Tori, I appreciate you coming on here, man. And let's keep us updated on the projects. Make sure we get some video updates so I can start putting together some shots of that for all the cars, all the 80s cars being built for you, for Bob, for everybody that things are happening with. And anybody out there listening in supply world that you want to be on board, sponsor some of these cars. We got a list of products we're looking for. So hit me up at Built Let's Talk Dubs, and we'll get you guys on board. Well, Tori,
I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you for coming on, brother. And we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you later.
Later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.